Is there
Very
anything?
cool.
Is there anything you don't want to talk about just before?
No, on you go, mate. You know, I think everybody knows all the fucking mad shit. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I saw you talk in Manchester at Bread Shed.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah.
So the crowd tend to go for them stories straight away with you, don't they? And just about all the bad nights.
Yeah, I don't even think compared to Sean, who I manage. I'm not even like I don't even really go there. I mean, Sean's whole thing is like vroom, he launches it at them, and like Sean's more mental than anybody in the audience. Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant. Well, what I've always admired about you is how close you've always been to grassroots music, and
thank you.
Me growing up in Sheffield, it's a pleasure. I can remember bands around me at the time that you were signing. So back in the Pop Tones days, you signed some friends of mine called the Dodgems at the time.
Yeah, one of them went on to be in the Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, they did.
The bass player, I think.
Yeah, they did. And they're still friends of mine to this day, playing in a band called Celador Mooncrow in Sheffield. And
what are they called now?
Celador Mooncrow.
All right. Yeah.
Got big beards and stuff. They're amazing live. The two brothers, they're just doing it on their own, playing drums and bass and doing everything live. It's mad.
I mean, I think you've just got to get on with it. I think people now, I mean, the music business in some ways is great because everybody can have a go, but also that's kind of made it a bit more complex because everybody is having a go.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah.
I'm all for it, but it's quite a saturated thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Sure. And another guy, John Lennon McCulloch, who you signed years and years ago. A young lad who was 16 who I used to put on at gigs in Sheffield, and
brilliant, mate.
Still know to this day he's in a band called Children of the State that are doing really well at the minute.
Brilliant.
It's just it's always been great to see a man of your stature and history within the music industry still supporting these local bands, and he's still doing it to today, which is great.
I don't know if I'm conscious. I'll be honest with you, Carl. I don't even know if I consciously do it. I'm just it's what I'm interested in doing. Is I'm interested in new music. And I put new music out. I don't think I'm that consciously doing it. It's just what I get off on. Do you know what I mean? I get off on putting people's records out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what do you look for when signing a band? What is that thing that gets Alan Mcgee going these days?
Well, it used to be that you could play well live, you know, and you some good songs and blah blah blah. It's never really changed. I mean, how I signed the obvious ones like Oasis was I showed up at a gig and they were great. All the way down the line, do you know what I mean? It's always been a bit like that. I showed up to see the Clockworks in a rehearsal studio because they didn't have any gigs, and they kind of put a gig on for me, and they were fucking phenomenal, Carol. And that's how I do it. I mean, I see a performance and I do it. Now, a bit more complex. But even now, you know, I think they're going to do a couple of showcasey things soon. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you're allowed to do it. If they're allowed to do it, they'll do it. Yeah. And because the majors are trying to sign them, and it'll be like it's creation baby through a major. Do you know what I mean? You know?
Yeah. Well, I interviewed Sean Ryder driving about in a car a couple of years ago.
You're that guy.
Yeah,
I remember.
Have you seen
told me about that.
Oh right, yeah. Thanks.
I think I saw it 2 years ago. Yeah. It was up in the. Was it up in the Peak District? Is it called the Peak District?
I live in Manchester now, from Sheffield originally, but it was somewhere on the outskirts of Manchester. I picked him up, some posh place.
Yeah. All right.
And it was great because one thing that I wanted to put to you as well is that Sean mentioned that all the major labels are shit scared of signing personalities these days because they don't know what they're going to have on their hands.
I mean, it's a different. Well, yeah, they are, but it's a different game now. It's just a bit. I mean, really sign unknown bands now, do they? Do you know what I mean? You've got to. Do you know what I mean? You know, I mean, it's kind of weird that they're interested in Clockworks because they've not really broke through yet, Clockworks. But I mean, it looks like they're going to be big. But usually they wait until you're selling out. Well, I suppose there's no gig. They wait till you're selling out 1,500 people, and then they come in as if they know what they're doing. Hey, I found this great band. They're selling out the Shepherd's Bush Empire. Yeah, I know. Great.
Yeah, you've kind of got to have been at the level of like, if you look 20 years ago, the level of being signed then compared to today is completely different, isn't it? And you have to be you have to build your own business before anyone will even look at you really, or take that punt on you, because you have to be viable, and selling vinyls these days makes a band viable, selling t-shirts, and you have to be busy at that before they'll even look at you. I tend to find.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, it's a different game, you know.
Yeah. What puts you off a band, Alan? So if you were out and about, what would like do your head in about a band? Oh, sorry, the sound's gone, mate.
If they're idiots, Carol.
Yeah. Okay.
If they're idiots as human beings, do you know what I mean? When you sign them,
Yeah.
I kind of tend to
Oh, sorry. Sounds playing off there, mate. Sorry.
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. We'll just go with it. Yeah. So it's just how so arrogance, would that turn you off if they're just like?
No, I don't care about that. That's cool, to be absolutely honest. Although I've signed some fucking arrogant bands, but that's not really what's ever done it for me. You know what I mean? No, if you like the thing about when I met Oasis and I met Noel Gallagher, he was fucking cool. Do you know what I mean? When I met the Clockworks, Sean and James were fucking cool, and that's and like Bobby I grew up with. You got to say Bobby's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
I've always signed people that I think are cool. Do you know what I mean? And then I don't know sometimes if they're going to make a good record. When I signed Bob back in 1983, one of the first signings to my label, I just knew him because I used to go to punk concerts with Bobby, you know, and I didn't know he was going to be cool. Do you know what I mean at all? You know, I mean, I knew he was cool, but I didn't know he was going to make great records.
Yeah.
So you never really know, Carol. Do you know what I mean? You just do what you do, you know.
So is there? I don't know. You seem to have a good eye for it, but you can't put your finger on what that is, can you? Really, it's just.
I just like what I like. I mean, it's complicated at the moment because I'm not seeing bands live, but I'm going to sign this little band, The Gulps, and they done an online gig, and I signed them off the back of the online gig, you know.
Wow.
And so I will work with people if they've got, if you're good live, do some online shows. You know, people like me watch them. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I got a PR email yesterday actually, and you've just signed a lad called Charlie Clark. That looks interesting.
Oh yeah, that's fucking great. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's been around a little bit.
Has he?
Well, Charlie's about late 30s. He was in a band, Astrid. I did a Q&A, like you were saying that you came to see me do a Q&A, and I went up to Stornoway. He was the promoter. He flew me up to Stornoway to do a show, and I'd done that gig, and he was phenomenal. He talked to me for 3 hours before I went on and done the chat.
Yeah.
And I said, Charlie, send me your music, because if you've got a tune, I'll sign you. And he does. He sent me that album, and I was like, fuck, I'll put it out. You know what I mean?
Wow, nice one. So you've worked with some of the most dysfunctional bands out there: Oasis, Mary Chain, Primal Scream, Libertines. Who were the hardest ones to manage?
I didn't manage Oasis, but I managed all the other ones.
Or just get from.
I think Libertines were the most difficult for me personally. Do you know what I mean? They were on a different trajectory to all the rest of the bands. I mean, they weren't really, I think they were much younger than me. That was one of the reasons, I suppose, you know what I mean? Because like Oasis, Noel's only 7 years younger than me. Do you know what I mean? And even Liam's only 10 or 11 years younger. I don't know how. Yeah, Liam's about 10 years younger than me, I think, or 11 years younger than me. I'm 60, but with the Libertines, I was 41 and Pete and Carol were 22, 23, and they were full on. And I wasn't there at the very conception of it. The manager resigned, and I then took the band over because the record company couldn't handle them. And the Rough Trade said, will you manage them? And I got involved in it, and then I managed them, and I broke them, to be honest. You know what I mean? And but even I was like, fuck, this is a bit complex, because it was, for day one, it was basically they were skyrockets, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. So have you got a funny story that you could share about a night out with just one of the bands, just to share with the viewers today who maybe weren't at your Q&As? Because the fans tend to ask you straight away about these kind of questions. About what are you?
I don't know. I don't know what's funny and what's not, mate. You know what I mean?
Fair enough, fair enough. Can you see Oasis ever reforming?
No, I don't. Not in the present. Not at the moment. I can't see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. So we mentioned Creation Baby now. Is that changed from Creation 23? I find it hard to keep up sometimes.
Yeah. No. It's just basically what happened is I had a partner, and we split. As in a business partner.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let's start a new company. And then also it was like, it's becoming apparent with things like Charlie Clark that I should be making albums. So I just went, okay, a new idea, digital singles now instead of 7-inch singles. Because all Creation 23 did was 7-inch singles and digital singles. So, and now it's digital singles and albums with it's Creation Baby. But Creation's me, whether it's called Creation Records, Creation 23, it's Creation Baby, Creation Management, Creation Songs. It's kind of, I am Creation ultimately, you know what I mean? And
so like the bands that you've had on your roster, Shambolics, the K's, that I'm really aware of and really embraced and really, on with. How's it been for those young lads during the pandemic? Because I've started to manage a band, and
I think the bands are struggling, but I think that it's more difficult actually in the older ones, because the young guys can all go out and get jobs, work for Amazon or fucking whatever people do, working at Tesco's or and get by that way because they're young and they're employable. The older guys that I manage are all like 40, 50. It's a bit more difficult for them. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't really want to be going higher than a 53-year-old guitar player. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Well,
it was famous in the 90s.
Well, the poor bastards, all they want to do is just play live and enjoy themselves, don't they? And just building that fan base because everything's slowed them down. And I manage a band, and the hardest thing I'm finding is just keeping the spirits up, just telling them to do all the boring stuff like engage with fans online and try and build numbers up and all that boring stuff. But they're just really struggling. But I just wondering if you might have any tips for those bands that are looking for a bit of inspiration.
Write songs. Write songs about why you're feeling, and if you can rehearse as a band, if you can get away with that, as in like you can legally do it. Clockworks can do it because they all live with each other. But if you can legally do it, then I suggest you do it.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? And if you're going to illegally do it, don't get caught.
And where do you stand with the old streaming debate about money earned and all that kind of stuff? I kind of look at Spotify and Apple Music as like
it's like an abusive boyfriend, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a boyfriend that pays your rent but fucks you up the arse. You know what I mean? That's Spotify. That's a cuntish thing to say, but it's a fucking truth. No, I mean, it's a fucking shit deal. You know what I mean?
I kind of say it's a great way to get your music out to the world, because anybody could find it on a stream or a playlist somewhere and embrace you as a new band. But you've got to kind of use music as a byproduct to earn a crust, haven't you? And start. And I've heard the saying so many times: the music industry is a bit of a t-shirt selling business. If you want to make money on it and merch and that kind of stuff, just make sure you're linking to your merch pages if you are putting it through Spotify to try and diversify your income. So what advice would you give? I'm a manager. It's the first time I've ever done it. It's like herding cats sometimes. What advice would you give a new manager like me when trying to get my band Sinclair from Manchester out into the world?
Well, at the moment, just try and keep them alive and try and don't leave anybody behind at the moment, because we're in the middle of a pandemic and I don't think we're going to do a gig this year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I won't be any more pessimistic than that, but I don't think we'll do a gig this year. So, just this is for musicians. We've been off now 11 months.
Yeah.
For musicians, what a great time to write. If by the end of this pandemic, if you don't have a great record in you, you probably don't have a great record. Do you know what I mean? If you haven't kind of written it, you probably are never going to write it, because there's nothing else to do. Do you know what I mean? And then, write songs or lose weight, or do you know what I mean? Like paint your house, all the things that you never got round to. You better get round to it now. You know what I mean? So all the great songwriters, they better come up with some great tunes, because there's no excuse to get to the end of this and say I don't have any songs, mate. Do you know what I mean?
I just hope there's not a fucking charts full of COVID-based songs coming up in 6 months. So you mentioned
I don't even know what's in the charts.
No, I don't. Yeah. So you mentioned your everything creation. So Creation Stories is coming out, the film, Alan.
Oh yeah, that's coming out. Yeah. That's coming out, Carol, on March the 20th on Sky. Sky bought it off the film company for England. It's coming out on all the world around March, April, May, I think. But
I've got Glasgow Film Festival on the 24th, and then March the 20th.
Oh, brilliant! Brilliant.
I'll be tuning into.
You'll like it when you see it.
I can't wait for it, mate. How much does it represent you in there? You know, how you who plays you? How
well, it's I wrote the book, and Irvin's written the script, and the script is like he's changed bits here, you know, because it's Hollywood. I mean, there's bits that I go into the sunset with my dad at the end. I haven't spoken to my dad for 20 years, so that's Irvin. But at the end of the day, you know, you can't be, just because I wrote it doesn't mean to say that, you know, Irvin can't change it. And, you know, it's fine. You know what I mean? I mean, there's stuff in it, Carol. I don't hate Tony Blair for what it's worth, you know, but Irvin does. So in it, I'm hating on Tony Blair. I don't hate Tony Blair. I think that's the last time Britain was any good, you know. But I'm okay. I know Iraq was a disaster, but Gordon Brown and Tony Blair, it was actually all right, wasn't it? You know what I mean? I mean, but I agree, Iraq, terrible move, Tony. But so I don't hate Tony Blair at all. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, I think he fucked up at the end of the day, but most of it was good. Yeah. And but Irvin's given it big time to Blair, and you know, with me in the film. But you've just got to go that Irvin, you know. So what can you do?
Do you go to Downing Street with Noel that time? Or have I just made that?
Yeah, I went. Yeah. That was good. I mean, I only went to see what it was like. You know what I mean? Yeah. And right after that, Carol, I got asked to go to Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
But I couldn't fucking do it because I hate them. You know, I hate the royals. But I went to have a look at 10 Downing Street.
Yeah.
But the best thing about the whole Labour thing was I managed to change the law with a new deal for musicians and got all the musicians benefits for 10 years. Do you know what I mean? So you could say I'm a guitarist and you got paid. Do you know what I mean?
Well, 20 years ago, to get me off my arse, I started a New Deal program at Darnell Music Factory.
Christ, I did it.
Thank you. And that were in Darnell Music Factory in Sheffield 20 years ago, and I learned things like music production, Cubase, how to do electronic stuff, bit of management stuff, all the ins and outs of the music industry. So yeah, nice one. Yeah, good link there. So what is the premise of Creation Stories then? Just talk us through the story of it.
It's Irvin's take on my book, but it's basically from 70s in Glasgow, me and Bobby getting into punk, and then me coming to London, and then the journey of the guys in the office. So Irvin always has 4 central characters, like he did in Trainspotting. In Creation Stories, it's me, Dick Green, played by Thomas Turgis, Ed Ball, and Joe Foster, and that's the main characters in the film. And it's pretty Trainspotting because that's what Irvin does. He writes the theme's that kind of insane fucking theme, but the truth is, Creation was much more fucking mental than Trainspotting, if I was being honest. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot darker sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
And how hands-on were you with the filming of it? Were you around it a lot, or did you just?
Yeah, I was around it a little bit. I wasn't really into doing it, if I was being honest with you. It's like I was paid as a consultant. I think I was paid to shut the fuck up. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good job.
Yeah, no, like here's 40 grand. Shut up. It was kind of like that. You're called a consultant. That means you're in charge of looking out the window in Wales. Don't come to London. It was a bit like that, but it's fine. I mean, I knew when you've got to let go. You know, when you let somebody do something like that. I'm just glad that I don't hate it. Do you know what I mean?
Did you learn, and from writing it, did you learn anything about yourself?
I can't spell.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Yeah.
No, I mean, I know kind of who I am. I'm an old guy, and I'm 60. You know, I mean, I'm very self-aware. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I get
I
it.
wasn't going to learn anything. I wasn't going to learn anything for a book. Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant. Well, I'm really looking forward to the film, Alan, and
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate your
Yeah.
time today. Have you got much on for the rest of your day today?
I've got another interview at 3, but the guy, I'm not snobby about it. If you send me it, and I do remember you when you done Sean, but if somebody says, because you were going, right, good mag, right, and I knew that's what, I used to go out with a girl for Sheffield, so I went, right,
Really?
okay, I'll do that one. And then at 3, I've got a guy for an Emotional Fish, some 80s band that I used to take the piss out of by calling them a promotional fish, right? You know what I mean? But he wrote to me on Instagram going, will you be in my podcast? And because I feel as if I slightly own one because I've taken the piss out of that band for 30 years, I better go and do a podcast. You know? But I've no issue with the band. It was just, they were really heavily promoted by, I think, Sony. They got signed for $1 million or $2 million in the 80s and were heavily promoted. And if I was being honest, I was probably jealous that it wasn't one of my bands. You know what I mean? So, and because there was adverts everywhere, I used to call them, not an emotional fish. I used to go, oh yeah, promotional fish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I used to always take the piss. So, but the guy seems okay, so I'll do his podcast.
Brilliant.
I'm not a snob.
Really appreciate your time, Alan. Enjoy the rest of your day, mate.
All right, my friend.